This video is on mixture exercises. Mixture exercises are quite tricky and many people seem to have trouble with these, so hopefully this will help everyone out and allow you to understand this a little better. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand before we even look at the question, well, we could look at the question. So it says how many liters of 30% acid solution would we need to mix with 8 liters of 60% acid solution to produce a 50% acid solution as a result. So I want to show you what this kind of would look like drawn out. This is just a kind of made up example. Let's see, did I follow this one? I think I just made up some of these numbers. It looks like this problem, but I just made up the numbers. So let's look at this. So what this is saying is when you have the first thing we want to see is how many liters of 30% acid solution would we need to mix. So what 30% acid solution means is that 30% of the solution is acid, and then the other 70% would be water. So looking at this one, this is 6 liters of 50% acid. So we have 6 liters in total, 3 liters of acid, 3 liters of water, and you call it a 50% acid solution because half of it's acid. Now in this one, it's 8 liters of 60% acid solution. So in total, there will be 8 liters, and 60% of that will be acid. So if you're given 8 liters and 60% is acid, you can use your calculator to determine how much is acid. So we, 0.6 times 8 liters. Well, that's 4.8 liters of acid, and then that leaves 8 minus 4.8, which is 3.2 liters of water left. And when you combine these, and I just did the numbers here, we did 3 plus 4.8, you get 7.8, and you do 3 plus 3.2, that's 6.2. And well, the total liters is 6 plus 8, so that's 14 liters in total. And it just happens that 55.7% of this is acid, and that leaves 44.3% of it as water. So that's kind of what's going on here. This is the general idea, and we're going to be given different amounts, and we're going to have to figure out the other amounts on our own. So I suggest drawing pictures of these if that helps you. I know the table method is what's presented in the lecture, and I'll go over that, but I think drawing pictures really helps. So let's go over this again. How many liters of 30% acid solution would we need to mix with 8 liters of 60% acid solution to produce a 50% acid solution as a result? So you might want to pause this, write this down so you have it, and then we're going to solve it together. So I drew this picture, right? So we said, how many liters of 30% acid? So when it says how many liters of 30% acid, that's going to be X. So X liters of 30% acid. So that's what I have going on right here. You can't really see my cursor. Let's see if we can. Okay, here we go. Right here. This is X liters of 30% acid. So again, in my picture before, I closed that. But remember how we did, if we had 8 liters of 60% acid, we multiply that to get 4.8 liters of acid. So again, we're going to do that here. Well, X liters of 30% acid, so that's going to be 0.3 times X. And the whole flask, this is X liters, right? Because it says how many liters of 30% acid. So the whole thing is X liters. And now we know mix with 8 liters of 60% acid solution. So that's what I drew out here. 8 liters of 60%, well, that leaves 4.8 as acid and 3.2 as water. And then the sum of these, we're mixing them together, we're adding them, is going to be this. So the sum of this total thing, well, we had X liters here, and we had 8 liters here. So X plus 8 liters is going to be this whole thing. And we want to kind of figure out how much acid is here, because it's to produce a 50% acid solution as a result. So we know 50% of this whole volume, right? So if that's going to be our acid. So, right, so it says we're mixing these two together to produce a 50% acid solution as a result. So the whole volume is X plus 8, and 0.5 times X plus 8, that's the amount of acid. Right? So we've really written out an equation here, and you can actually see it. We're saying the acid in this plus the acid in this equals the acid in this, right? So that's what we're doing here. We're adding the acid and figuring it out in terms of X, which is the total liters, right? So we went from this thing that's the total liters to adding the acid. So if this picture helps you, please do it this way, because we essentially we've written out our equation here, and we can solve for X. We have 0.3x plus 4.8 equals 0.5 times X plus 8, right? So we can, let me pull up my math editor. So we can just solve this. 0.3x plus 4.8, 0.3x plus 4.8. What does that equal? That equals 0.5 times x plus 8 equals 0.5 times x plus 8. Okay, so this is a pretty easy thing to solve now. 0.3x plus 4.8 equals 0.5x plus 4. So we can subtract 3x here, subtract the 4 here, do that quickly. So we get 0.8 equals 0.2x, right? That 0.3x minus this, and then that minus that. And so if we divide everything by 0.2, let's use the calculator again so we don't make any mistakes. So we do 0.8 divided by 0.2, well, that equals 4. So x equals 4, right? So what we got is that X liters of 30% acid, it's going to be 4 liters of 30% acid. And that's our solution, X equals 4 liters. So now let me do this a different way, and maybe this way makes more sense to you. And this is the table method. So let me pull up a spreadsheet. Okay, one sec. Well, it loads. Okay, so we have a spreadsheet here. We're going to make a table out of this. So what we want on the table, we want a few pieces of information. Well, on these rows here, I like to label these solution 1, and then solution 2, and we can make this a little bigger, solution 3. And here what we're going to do is, how about liters? That will be the liters of the total flask. And then percent acid. And then the final one will be volume acid. And so what you can see, what you can see is that the total liters of volume times the percent acid gives us the volume of acid. And what, we did that before here. That's this whole thing is X liters. Well, let's do it with this number. We said the whole thing is 8 liters and 60% is acid, and then 4.8 liters of it is pure acid. So that's basically we're putting in this information and we're getting that. And we're going to do that for each flask. So this is solution 1, solution 2, solution 3, like we have here. So again, it says how many liters, and we said, okay, that's going to be X. And then of 30% acid, so 0.3. And then the volume of acid is 0.3 times X, right? And then solution 2, it's 8 liters in total at 60%. So 8 liters at 60% is, well, we calculated it in the picture. That's 4.8. So that's 8 times 0.6 is 4.8. And that's the volume of acid. And then solution 3, well, it's the sum of those two. That's the producing it. So that's the sum of these two. So that's X plus 8 is the total volume. Percent acid is 50%. And then the volume acid is the product of these two. So that's 0.5 times X plus 8. And again, going back to the picture, we said the volume of this X, the volume of this 8, the sum of those, that's going to be the volume of this whole thing, X plus 8. X plus 8 is X plus 8. And then the volume, well, we know it's 50% acid, so it's 0.5 times X plus 8. And that's the information we have here. And again, we're solving for the same thing. 0.3x plus 4.8 equals 0.5 times X plus 8. And, we already did that math. I think I just deleted it, but here it is. the same equation. We got 0.3x plus 4.8 equals 0.5 times x plus 8. So those ways, if it helps to draw the picture, please draw the picture. If it helps to do the table, please draw the table. Whatever works better for you. If you can just think about it in your head and just do it without ever making a table, that's fine too. But use these steps, watch this video, skip around, replay the parts that you need help on, and don't hesitate to email me if you need any more help. I'm happy to answer questions or do a virtual class with you sometime. So good luck, try these on your own, make sure to practice these, and I'm sure you'll get it soon.